Yo, what's going on, guys? Kultamush back at it with a $650 full gaming PC setup. So this is a gaming PC that includes the monitor, keyboard, mouse, and the OS. I've been being requested on a daily basis pretty much to do more PC builds and more of these full setups specifically. So here it is, a $650 one, and this is a very budget end build, but it can still run all the latest games like Fallout 4, Star Wars Battlefront, Witcher 3, and upcoming games. And obviously with a gaming PC, you can upgrade it whenever you want, so that option is also open. So without further ado, let's get right into this with the CPU of the build. I went with the Intel Core i3-4160 3.6 GHz dual core processor. This dual core CPU is about $110 right now, and I know what you guys are thinking. What the hell, an Intel Core i3 that can't even run Fallout 4, can it? No guys, a Core i3 can actually run Fallout 4. Based on benchmarks that I've seen online, the Core i3 actually does a pretty good job with Fallout 4 if it's paired with a respectable video card. And from what I've seen, an i3 with a decent video card can actually run Fallout 4 much better than the console versions. And a Core i3 is a very good gaming CPU. Yes, you could get an AMD quad core that would give you better options in terms of video editing and rendering, but since this is primarily a gaming build for $110, the Core i3-4160 was the way to go. It's clocked at 3.6 GHz, and obviously this CPU cannot be overclocked, so you're going to stick with the stock CPU cooler. And for $110, this was a pretty good option in the build. For the motherboard, I went with the ASRock H97 Anniversary ATX LG1150 motherboard for $60. The ASRock H97 Anniversary is just a very good budget and motherboard. It's only $60, which is very cheap for a motherboard, but it's still got 4 RAM slots up to DDR3 1600 MHz, up to 32 GB of max memory. It's got RAID support. Obviously, in a budget end build like this and with a budget end motherboard, it doesn't have Crossfire or SLI support, but I'm pretty sure for those of you on a budget, going for a Crossfire or SLI configuration isn't something you're looking for anyway. This motherboard also has 6 SATA 60-bit/second ports, which is pretty nice. And overall, for $60, this was a really solid motherboard to go with. Definitely not too expensive, but has all the features you want out of a budget and motherboard. For RAM, I went with G.Skill RipjawsX series 8GB, 24GB sticks running at DDR3 1600 MHz for only $45. What a ridiculous deal for 8GB of RAM. Great to see that 8GB of RAM is so cheap now. About a year ago, this same kit of RAM would have been $70 to $75. So great to see that now you can get 8GB of RAM for only $45. And that's a great amount to have pretty much with any game these days. They recommend 8GB, and with 8GB being so cheap, no reason to go with anything less. And the majority of the recent titles are recommending 8GB. Fallout 4 recommended 8GB, Witcher 3. I know Star Wars Battlefront does recommend 16GB of RAM, but I ran the beta of that game with 8GB of RAM. Ran fantastically, so don't worry about that at all. You will have the option to go for a 16GB configuration in the future if you want to upgrade, but for now, definitely just stick with 8GB. That's going to work perfectly in this budget and build. For storage, I just went with the mechanical drive, the WD Caviar Blue 1TB. It's a 1TB hard drive, not much more to say. We couldn't fit an SSD in a budget build like this. I'm pretty sure most of you guys want the mass storage that the mechanical drive will give you over the 120GB or so you're going to get out of an SSD. I mean, games these days, their file sizes are just getting bigger and bigger. You take a game like Black Ops 3, that game was 50GB. If you got a 120GB SSD, well, you can see what 50GB is going to do to that solid state drive. So for a budget end build, I would say get a mechanical drive, and in the future, when SSD prices just go cheaper and cheaper, that's an upgrade you can make in the future. But I think having at least a terabyte is pretty much essential these days, especially if you're a gamer. Moving on to the video card, I went with the Zotac GeForce GTX 750 Ti. This GPU is only $100 right now. Ridiculous deal. No rebates attached. It's just $100 off the bat. And Digital Foundry actually has a benchmark where they're using an Intel Core i3 and a GTX 750 Ti, and it actually runs Fallout 4 really well. They never dip below 30 frames per second, and with the console versions of Fallout 4, you're gonna dip well below 30 FPS. Sometimes you go to 15 FPS. So the GTX 750 Ti paired with the i3 can actually run a lot of games at decent settings and decent frame rate. With games like Witcher 3, you can play that game at medium settings and still get 35 to 40 FPS. Fallout 4, like I said, you won't dip below 30 FPS at pretty good settings. So the GTX 750 Ti is actually a great option in a budget build. I was actually looking at the R7 260X, but I couldn't find one for a decent price, so I just thought the GTX 750 Ti right now was an overall better fit. But if you guys do see an R7 260X for around $100, that would also be a very good video card to use. But right now, the Zotac GTX 750 Ti is a great budget video card to get. It comes at a great price and will offer pretty good performance for that price. Moving on to the power supply, I went with the XFX 550 watt 80 plus bronze certified power supply. 550 550 watts is a lot more than you need, but I wanted to get a power supply like this, so if you do want to upgrade the video card in the future, that option will be open. With the 550 watt power supply, you can go as high as something like a GTX 970. So even though you can't go for a Crossfire SLI configuration in this build, in the future, if you do want to sell your GTX 750 Ti, get something better like a GTX 960, a 970, or even an R9 390, you'll be able to power it no problem with the XFX 550 watt power supply. And it's 80 plus bronze certified and comes at a pretty decent price of $55, so all around a good fit in the build. For the case, I went with the NZXT Source 210 white ATX mid-tower case. This case comes in white or black, so just pick the color of your preference. I like the white one myself, and it's only $35. This is the best case for less than $40 that you can buy. $35 for a great case that aesthetically, honestly, it doesn't look the greatest, but it looks fine. And in a budget and gaming PC build, you shouldn't be worried too much about aesthetics. It's just gonna sit on the side, so worry about your performance and then worry about the case. And the Source 210 for $35 is a fantastic case. It's gonna do everything you want, provide good ventilation, a decent amount of room if you do want to upgrade, just everything you could want out of a budget case, all for $35. Moving on to peripherals, first the monitor, I went with the Asus VS239H-P black 23-inch monitor. Yes, it's pretty pricey at $130, but at this day and age, you pretty much need a 1080p monitor. I mean, who wants to game at 720 or even 900p? Grab a 1080p monitor. Yes, it's kind of expensive at $130, but who cares? It's something that you kind of have to get. 23 inches is a great size for 1080p, and this Asus one is super high quality. I have a couple of these monitors myself, actually, and when I did game on them, they worked fantastically. So definitely, Asus has a lot of good 1080p monitors, and this one falls in line. Alright, so for keyboard and mouse, you're not gonna go with anything crazy. I hopped on Amazon and I saw the Cooler Master Storm Devastator. There's a keyboard and mouse combo. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's $30 though. Yes, I know everybody would love a Corsair Vengeance K70, but in a budget end build, that just makes no sense. Just get something cheap like this. At least start out with something like this. And I know a lot of you guys will be gaming with a controller anyway. And this keyboard and mouse combo is still gonna do a pretty good job for the price that you're getting it for. $30 for a keyboard and mouse, that's really freaking good. Yes, I know it'd be nice to have a K70 and a Myonix caster, but in a $650 full setup PC build, you really can't do that. Get the Storm Devastator off Amazon. It comes in a variety of color. Aesthetically, it looks really good for the price that you're paying. And for a budget end keyboard and mouse, it's a great starting option. And I think the majority of you guys that are building a PC like this are really just starting out, so this is a good fit. Finally, for the operating system, I would hop over to G2A, pick up a Windows 8 key, or you could go on r/Microsoft Software Swap and you can get a Windows 10 key. That's actually what I did to get my Windows 10 key. It was only like $40. Great price, had no problems with it. Everything worked out just fine. But if you guys are scared to do something like that, yeah, you can go on Amazon and pay $100, but who does that anymore? But I will leave that option up to you guys. If it were up to me, I would hop over on G2A or r/Microsoft Software Swap, but that's just one man's opinion. So thanks for watching this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you disliked, obviously leave a dislike. Comment your requests for future videos. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day and peace out.